if I pose the question, which player, which person really in the entire fold enters the OTAs that start Tuesday with the most to prove? I could have all kinds of fun with the concept, except that I'd also have to be honest with you and tell you there's really nobody. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. OTAs are 3 days next week. That's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all open to the media. So it'll be your chance, really, indirectly, to connect with a lot of the new faces, a lot of the new visuals, a lot of the new, who knows what might get shown in this setting. There's obvious things that'll jump out. DK Metcalf being on the field in anger, so to speak, with his new teammates for the first time. Will he have something to prove? Probably not. Not even in his own head. This is a guy that's been in the league for a while. This is a guy that's made some plays. But, new world, new environment, new peers. Mason Rudolph back in the fold. Of course, he's been over there for a few weeks now, but, this is the first time that you're going out there. You're wearing at least some parts of the uniform, and barring something really unexpected between now and then, he'll be, for all intents and purposes out there, QB1. How's he going to carry himself? Are people going to be watching him a little bit more closely because he is that guy? I could say much the same for Jaylen Warren, really. The Jalen's out from the Najee Harris shadow. It doesn't mean he's not going to have some push coming from Caleb Johnson, but it's different. Jalen's been there. Jalen's the guy. Caleb is still going to be hearing about nothing other than blocking, and he's going to hear it for the next 4 months. As long as I'm on that side of the football, how about Roman Wilson? How about him? He looks like he's in extraordinary shape. He looks, and by all accounts is giving off the vibes like he's someone who's here to be reckoned with. He's not just going to be some inexplicable inactive. Looks like he's ready for a fight. Good. Heck, I say this every year, but the one and only position that actually can show something at these football in shorts type sessions, it's the wide receiver. That's it. Because someone's still got to throw the ball and someone's still got to catch it. And the makeup of the catch versus the coverage really isn't all that different from a regular game. It is different, but not that different. How about on the other side? How about Keanu Benton? He's got not one, but 2 new additions to the defensive line. They're both younger, the same way he is. Referring, of course, to Derek Harmon and Y.A. Black. And there's a significant subtraction in there in Larry Ogunjobi, in that Larry O's he's a guy who was a pretty big presence on that line and in that room. Benton did not have some great year, much less a breakthrough. Here's one that, might seem a little bit unfair for me to bring up, but, so be it. Cole Holcomb has to show he's healthy. He has to show that he's not some asterisk, that he's not something really bad waiting to happen. And he's got to show it, I believe, at a starter's level. Because if he isn't at a starter's level, then you're using an inside linebacker spot that could be doubly committed to special teams. I'm getting a little detailed here, but you get the idea. There are going to be guys coming back from injuries, and you're going to want to keep an eye on him and on Troy Fautanu. And on that subject, what about TJ Watt? Contract year, unusual Instagram message, hold in, hold out, neither. What's his health like after finishing the season, not on the shelf, but definitely not at 100%? Will he even be there? I probably should have opened this segment by pointing out that attendance is not mandatory. This is a voluntary thing. Mandatory minicamp doesn't occur till the middle of next month. And then don't forget about the one guy who's going to throw something of a figurative cloud over the entire proceedings, even though he has virtually no chance of being there, and that is Aaron Rodgers, and that's everybody else having to answer questions about Rodgers, and that's Mike Tomlin having to answer questions about Rodgers. The only person who won't be answering questions about Rodgers, and I can promise you this because I know this, is going to be Mason himself. He's pledged to talk about that situation only once it's clear what it'll actually be. And then you know what's funny? I say all that. I mention all those names, all those positions, and even the 4-time MVP who's not going to be there. I go through all of that, and you know what's going to end up being the most common question that comes from probably you, probably everybody else in the nation over the next week is, how did Will Howard look? Well, unlike rookie minicamp, we'll actually be able to tell you something because in rookie minicamp, they weren't even throwing actual footballs. There'll be some of that. There'll be interaction with his teammates, with his offensive linemen, with his wide receivers, with the other two quarterbacks in the fold in Mason and Skylar Thompson. And there's bound to be at least one awesome Howard interview session in this, in which everyone can fall in love with him all over again. When we come back, J1Q.
Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George is a personal injury law firm in Western Pennsylvania that represents injured people in automobile accidents, workers' compensation cases, and medical malpractice claims. The attorneys at Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George pride themselves in doing what they say they're going to do. It's important to them that when they make you a promise, they keep that promise. And this law firm has been keeping promises for over 80 years. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George has been AV rated. That's the highest rating a law firm can receive for legal ability and ethics. And the lawyers at the firm have been designated super lawyers, that's a real thing, for over 15 years. Rare combination there. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George has offices in Cranberry, Newcastle, Beaver Falls, Butler, and Elwood City. Learn more about them at lgkg.com or by calling 888-842-5454. Again, that's 888-842-5454.
Today's J1Q comes from Mark Gregory, who says, "Hey, DK, after listening to your discussion earlier in the week about Mike Tomlin's approach to quarterbacks, it got me wondering, is there an alternate universe in which Kenny Pickett works out in Pittsburgh? For example, if Tomlin committed to developing Pickett instead of grabbing Russell Wilson, if Tomlin was instead willing to develop Pickett and give him the time he needed without being distracted by the shiny veteran, or am I way off base here? Big fan of the show. I appreciate that, Mark. And as someone who is a regular and listening to the show, you probably know I'm not usually wild about hypothetical questions. There's not really a substantive answer that you can give, certainly not from the perspective of a reporter. But where Pickett's concerned, the first thing that comes to mind for me is the way he exited. And I can't stress that part enough. He exited. He was the one who reacted to the Steelers signing of Wilson by saying, "Get me out of here," even though he hadn't proven himself at the NFL level. He just hadn't. I see that scenario getting incorrectly described in a lot of settings, and I feel like it's worth bringing up on occasion that Tomlin really did sell out on Pickett. I mean that in the positive sense. I mean that he was really there behind him. Once he put Kenny in, Kenny was his guy. He made that abundantly clear. There was no hesitation. There was none of that hot hand nonsense like you heard when Mason Rudolph was winning for the team. When he handed the ball to Kenny, that for him was supposed to be it. So he was not expecting Kenny to demand his way out. So I wouldn't pin that part of it on the head coach at all. You can obviously say what you want about Tomlin bringing in Wilson, but you can't say that he gave up on Kenny or got rid of him. Secondly, I know of at least one of his teammates who strongly advised him against doing what he did because his best opportunity to become a starting quarterback or regain becoming a starting quarterback again was always going to be right here in Pittsburgh, obviously. And if he had just toughed it out, stuck it out, whatever term you'd want to use, and then Russ gets injured in training camp, and Justin Fields would obviously never have been signed, Kenny would have taken over the team, and he would have had another chance right from the beginning. And then, maybe if Kenny starts, I don't know, let's say 4-2, the way Fields did, maybe Tomlin doesn't make the switch back to Russ. See, that's the problem with hypotheticals. It's never about one thing. It's a convergence of events, all of which, through, I guess you could call it chaos theory, affect each other. We just don't know, and we're never going to know. I will say this, though. There's a real fight in Kenny's personality. His leaving here because he was mad at the Steelers notwithstanding. And while I don't exactly expect stardom from him, I didn't expect that here, I do see that he could become a solid NFL quarterback if he's given a real opportunity and real weapons. Nah, maybe not in Cleveland. Never mind. I take it all back. Forget it. Anyway, I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. We're going to have a double shot of Steelers today at 4 p.m. Eastern. That's our every weekday live video show you can find on YouTube and, of course, at the DK Pittsburgh Sports app and site. And then I'm going to hook back up with you guys next Tuesday after the Memorial Day weekend, and again on the day that the Steelers open OTAs. Have a wonderful weekend.